time for another classic JP and the Beans Top 5. On today's Top 5, inspired by the sheer grossness and creepiness of the Reaper vampires in the Blade 2 movie, we are going to hit our top 5 creepiest characters in the comics. So we can pull from the comics, we can pull from the movies, per usual. The whole Marvel and DC is our oyster. Without further ado, Beans, you go first.
Now, this sets the tone, I think, for the whole list.
Oh boy.
At number 5, I have the Joker.
Yep.
He has to be on this list.
Okay.
Now, I'm thinking of Joker. I'm thinking of Death of the Family Joker, where he cuts his own face off and staples it back on. That is Death of, correct? Because Death in is when Jason Todd dies?
Yep.
We need to work on rebranding there. Anyways.
Well, I think it was very intentional.
I
think it was intentional. So good on you for distinguishing the two.
Death of the Family.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But he was a psychopath.
Oh.
In that line.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always been a psychopath, but just the fact that...
This was a different level.
Yeah.
Just,
no, he made everybody think that he cut their faces off
Yep.
and served it back to them on a platter. And it turns out he didn't.
I still can't get that comic image out of my head, and I genuinely wish I could.
Of them at the table?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
It is, because I'm reading it and I'm going, I don't want to turn the page and see this.
Yeah. Because doesn't he sneak into the Batcave for that as well? And then, gets the upper hand? Yeah.
Ugh.
Joker, number 5. Brutal.
Yep. Real brutal. Good pull on your part for freaking number 5. Okay. My number 5, gosh, that's so good. So I have written down my 5. I'm still on the fly here trying to determine the order. Let me rephrase that.
The order for me was difficult.
I know who my number 1. Okay, we might have the same number 1.
I don't think so. I would be surprised if we had the same number 1.
Okay. So I know who my number 1 is. I'm going to go with my number 5, and I apologize. This is heavily weighted into the DC side. Now, I've read more DC than Marvel in general.
Mine's balanced.
Good for you. Mine is not. Mine is 4 and 1. Okay? So my number 5, I'm going to go with Granny Goodness. Okay? So Granny Goodness, this is phenomenal branding because it's terrifying. She is exactly what you would expect when you hear Granny, all right? She's elderly. She's grandmother aged. However, that's where the directness of the branding ends. You get into the goodness. How about the opposite of the goodness? So Granny Goodness is one of Darkseid's favored lieutenants. Her role, her job, is to take kids, like toddler-age kids, and bring them up to be messed up evil beings. So she's legitimately torturing children, twisting their minds and their bodies. Yikes. Granny freaking Goodness. Now, for me, where I've spent most time with Granny Goodness is in the Mr. Miracle comic written by Tom King. And throughout that comic, Mr. Miracle, Scott Free, who grew up under Granny's tutelage, is recalling at various points the various torments that he had to go through while being raised by Granny, and it is harrowing stuff. It's just trauma with a capital T. So, Granny Goodness, my number 5. Just glad she's not my grandma. Okay, my number 4 is Parallax. The freaking...
I forgot about him. Yeah, he is creepy.
So, Parallax in and of himself, right? Just imagine this giant space parasite, okay? The name is very on point. Again, very effective branding. And there's nothing soft about this guy, from a visual perspective. There are nothing but sharp edges on this dude. Now, Parallax, what takes him to this next level of creepiness, he's creepy enough to look at, but he is a legitimate infestation. As soon as he gets inside and infects someone, their physiology is altered to where now they are some frickin' twisted blend of, let's just say, human, like Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner, and space parasite. So they have an obnoxiously long tongue, fingernails that grow, slime dripping from orifices. It's terrible. And it's almost, quite frankly, it's almost worse when Parallax is taken out of any of these various characters, because the exit is so much more disgusting than the entrance. It's nasty, and every time a character is, let's just say, relieved of the burden of hosting Parallax, they are covered in gross ooze. It's real nasty. So Parallax, my number 4.
I remember Superman getting possessed by him.
Oh, he's the worst. Well, he's not. He's number 4.
Yeah. So my number 4, in honor of the X-Men, I have Mojo. Do you not know Mojo?
I don't know Mojo.
Oh, Mojo.
Oh, boy.
Mojo is creepy. So Mojo lives in his own universe called Mojoverse. And so his whole thing is he wants good ratings. And so he's this really fat guy.
Yeah.
And so anybody in there, like, he's just manipulating the world around him so it's good television. Wow. So he's a master manipulator. Wow. And he's super duper gross.
Oh, he's awful to look at.
Yes. So he sits in a chair.
Yeah.
And he's fat and sweaty and gross.
He has spider legs?
Yep, and no eyelids too.
Oh!
It's disgusting. So
that is a tough visual.
I don't know too much outside of Mojo. Outside of that,
I'm still looking at this. What's wrong with me? Stop.
Mojo is my number 4.
Yee, that's a great number 4.
Yes. My number 3. This one's going to be an obscure pick that you will respect.
Love it.
Mr. Bloom.
Wow.
From Batman, when Jim Gordon was Batman, and that was Jim Gordon's number 1 nemesis. Yeah.
Cheers to you, sir.
Super creepy, because I believe his whole process was turning other people into superpowered people, correct?
Yep.
And he just he keeps getting creepier and creepier.
Yeah.
Imagine like Slender Man, but with a dandelion on his face,
right?
Or a sunflower on his face, something like that.
Foliage of some variety.
But and he was like taking over Gotham, of course, because that's what villains do over there.
Yes.
But Mr. Bloom is my number 3.
That's a really great pull. I'm going to have to just ignore my family, not go to work, and reread so much, if not all, of the Scott Snyder run on Batman. Because, good grief, between talking about the Joker and then Mr. Bloom, those are not the villains in that run are just tremendous. Okay, my number 3. Here you go. Here's my one Marvel inclusion. Sorry, Marvel, it's not your fault. It's me. It's a me problem. Is Sin. This is the daughter of the Red Skull. Okay?
That's a pull.
Now, Sin, part of what makes her creepy, okay, she is just an absolute, just a freaking terrorist, okay? So she's a problem in and of herself. She doesn't just kill, she torments. She doesn't just hurt, she draws out the pain. But part of what really enhances the messed upness of her character, okay, is that when she was born, the Red Skull was furious because he wanted a son as an heir. He was trying to breed an heir, and he gets a daughter instead of a son. You're a douche, Red Skull. We knew it. Now you're just enhancing it. So the Red Skull gives her away to be raised initially by someone who promises the Red Skull, like, don't worry, I'm going to mess her up real bad for you so that she is just an awful person. The Red Skull goes, 2 thumbs up, thank you. Bring her back when she's terrible. And so that's what happens. She's brought back to the Red Skull. He just continues to push her into just absolute madness and nastiness. She gets rescued. Okay, she gets rescued by the good guys. They take her away. They do some serious psychological reprogramming. Okay, so she's just living, not aware of her dark past, and then Crossbones comes into the picture, breaks her out of her containment where she's given enough freedom but being monitored so she doesn't go crazy again. Crossbones breaks through, and over the course of a freaking month reverses the programming through torture, through awful means, until, guess what, she's back to being Sin again. So this poor person never had a chance, trained to be awful, gets rescued, and then is deprogrammed again, and she's worse than ever before. And boy, is she messed up, man. She hurts. Sin. That's my number 3.
Okay.
So, really creepy origin story. It's just, it's not good. Not good. Okay, my number 2. The Batman Who Laughs. So, speaking of our guy, Scott Snyder, this is the blend of Bruce Wayne and the Joker. So, in the Dark Multiverse, there's a version of Batman who kills the Joker. When the Joker dies, his body releases a toxin that infects Batman, and the toxin's design is to mess with Bruce Wayne's mind and turn him into the Joker, and it does. So it creates this awful blend of Bruce Wayne's cleverness and genius with the Joker's madness and destruction, and the Batman Who Laughs turns the Robins into brain-dead, like, long-toothed minions that are cannibals, which is terrible. He kills all of the Justice League because of course he can, and he does. And they all, BT Dubs, they die super hard. Like, you want to talk about comic panels that, again, I wish I could just get out of my mind? That's another one where it's like, that was horrible to watch. It's just, like, Plastic Man, if I recall from that particular image, he's spread out, let's say, in all across the panel. He's everywhere and very dead. The Batman Who Laughs is just a nasty, nasty fool, and then of course comes to Earth and attempts to take over and wreak absolute holy havoc. So that's my number 4. Excuse me, my number 2, the Batman Who Laughs.
Okay, my number 2. This is a more recent character.
Yep.
I haven't read anything to do with him.
Yep.
But I have the Upside Down Man. This is DC.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read off his wiki. Okay. The Upside Down Man is an all-powerful being of horror and reflections of all dark and twisted possibilities of magic.
It's not good.
So he's just
It's not good.
the birth of evil magic in DC.
Yeah.
You want to look him up. He's terrifying to look at. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's all I really have to go off of. I don't know too much about him. I know the Justice League Dark went after him with Wonder Woman when she was on that team. That's all I know. But yeah, you look him up and you tell me how creepy he is.
Ah!
Yeah.
Yikes!
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. He's always upside down, hence the name.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
So the blood is not rushing to where it needs to be.
There are no lips there. There's just teeth.
Yeah, no, it's rough. It's rough. It's
Really?
rough. So we'll leave that at that. And my number 1.
Again, why am I still looking at
I don't
this?
know. My number 1 is very specific to me as a person.
Okay.
Because I hate parasites.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
My number 1 fear in life.
Yep.
I have the Brood at number 1.
Ooh. Yeah.
The aliens that will impregnate people and then just turn them into themselves.
Yep.
Okay, X-Men have had to deal with them a lot. I believe some of them turned into the Brood for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how the Brood repopulates, and then they kind of just infest and turn other people into them, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And they're disgusting.
Yep.
And they look gross.
Yep.
And I'm not a fan. Therefore, I will never read anything with the Brood. Okay? Because that is a nightmare for me.
Yep.
That is aliens from, aliens on roids. Yeah. And I believe they keep the superpowers of whoever they infect. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah. They're real nasty.
No thanks.
Yeah.
I'll pass. Yeah. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
That's my number 1 is the Brood.
Smart. Really good choice. Love that number 1. My number 1 is Professor Pig.
Oh, I forgot about him entirely.
Yeah. That's for the best.
He should be in the top 5 for sure.
No, he grosses me out so much. Okay, so the dude wears a pig mask. It's a person. It's a human being who has gone nuts.
Talk about the craziest origin of all origins.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wears a pig mask and creates masks that he then burns onto other people that allows him to control their actions.
On top of that, he numbs all the nerves in their body so they don't feel pain.
Yeah. But it's a very painful process.
Oh yeah,
so it's not oh thanks, bud. It's like no. This wasn't a thank you, sir.
The Dolotrons.
Oh my gosh.
That's what he calls them.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's a combination of the visual is terrible. He's always wearing an apron that has blood on it from his most recent surgery. And he has this tone where he is speaking you can just hear it where it's he's trying to speak very softly and gently, and yet it's just so creepy because the tone that he's using is very soft, and yet the things that he's saying are awful and messed up and sick and twisted.
You're missing some of the best parts though as well, because for some reason he's an expert knife thrower.
Right.
For some reason,
Right.
he's just
Because he can just
he's bullseye with knives.
Yeah. Of course.
And the other thing to add to the creepiness is he's an opera singer.
Yep.
So he sings opera.
Yep.
Because we've talked about this before on the pod,
we
but
have.
I will bring it
We
up
have.
again. Look up, if you ever want to just scare yourself, look up Professor Pig intro in the Dark, or not the Dark Knight, Arkham Knight, the game. Because you just kind of go into his lair, and he's operating on a Dolotron, singing opera, and then he looks up, and you're like...
You see the pig face.
And you're like, what? No.
Oh.
And by the way, he is a disgusting underneath the mask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was not a win-win.
No, it wasn't a loss or improvement putting on the pig mask.
No.
It had already.
And he oinks too.
Oh,
Which is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, very, very valid to have on your top 5.
Yep. So,
he should have been on mine a little bit.
well, what's sad is that we could do a top 10 and there would still be those that
didn't make the list.
Yeah. So no, I'm okay with capping it at 5.
Yeah. No.
So, well, now I feel really gross. So there you go. There's another classic JP and the Beans top 5. Look these characters up at your own friggin' risk.
Yeah.